Thank you, sir. We again have a pleasant task to perform. I would now request Lopa Mudra, our colleague, to hand over a memento to sir. Thank you. With this, we will be starting our next session, and I would request Ms. Neha Kumar. Neha is the project advisor of GIZ. Neha has been managing the Indo-German business responsibility at GIZ and is in charge of the bilateral cooperation project on CSR being implemented in partnership with the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs since 2008. She has been involved in setting up and steering the dialogue among diverse stakeholders, which has been the basis for building consciousness on business responsibility at the national level, reflected by the National Voluntary Guidelines on Social, Environmental and Economical Responsibility of Business of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. I would request Neha to be on the dais, please.
So I'll follow suit in line with the great speakers that you've already had, two of them very, very good speakers this morning and this afternoon. I shall also just try to hold a conversation with you. There is a lot to share. Part of it will be the details. Part of it will be actually the very, very fundamental questions that we, at least in this room, should be able to ponder over and look into. Dr. Chatterjee in the morning talked about what is the good thing to do. Bharat touched about what is the right thing to do. And I think this is a very, very fundamental question. And as an individual, I don't think that this question is vastly different either for an individual or for an enterprise. What is the right thing to do and what is the good thing to do? Ideally, there should not be any difference or gap between these two things. If you did things right, good will follow. But if you only did things in order to look good and you were irresponsible in many other ways, the net effect and the net impact is actually negative. And I think this is the fundamental aspect of the term responsibility that we are trying to address over here. Before I go into this presentation, I was just listing down a couple of thoughts over here which I'd like to share with you. In other words, when I'm saying what is the balance between right and good, I'm basically trying to say that efficiency of a business, which means being profitable, which means creating a lot of shareholder value. People who have invested in the business, they should get their right due of investment. And its impact cannot be two isolated things. Good businesses, responsible businesses, thriving businesses cannot exist in a failing society. At all. I mean, who would you sell your goods and services to if there are not customers who feel like buying your goods and services? If they are not employees, you're happy working in your factories? So how would you even thrive in the first place if you weren't holistically responsible? The other thing, I think this is a question that we should ask and should ponder over a little bit more deeply. In the morning, somebody said that this is not business as usual. Why? What is the difference? Why is this not business as usual? If you thought about it, there are two things which have changed. One is the power and availability of information. There is more and more information with more and more of us. It is not business as usual. It is not business as usual for governments. It is not business as usual for businesses. It is not business as usual for individuals. If you want something, you have to say it, and that you have a right and an access to say it is different from how it used to be in earlier times. Secondly, I think the rate at which our natural resources are getting depleted is much higher than at the rate at which they are getting replenished. We are already over the capacity of what Earth can give us. We have made a few last checks which have just about to bounce. So these two things, natural resources, in which of course come not only environmental resources, but human resources also, and information. These two things will fundamentally, not will, they have started to fundamentally alter the way systems are functioning. So, in a way, if you only created wealth without distributing it, or without creating opportunities for that wealth to create an overall prosperity, you are not only likely to die, but you're sure to die in a much lesser span of time. There is no luxury of time that, only my next generation will, reap the benefits or will suffer from what I'm doing. You have seen in the last 10, 20 years the number of scams, the number of projects which have not delivered. You can take it that from the mining companies to even information technology companies. There is nothing, no more a difference between a company in a particular sector and a company in those sunrise new sectors, that they will not face the wrath of the people, or they will not face severe constraints on their business if they were not responsible. So I think these fundamental questions are very important for us to understand, and I would reiterate what Bharat said, that NVGs, actually in the preface, if you read it, they said they touched the spirit of the enterprise. And I'm coming back to the fundamental aspect of spirituality. We tend to feel shy of talking of these aspects. But I think what it means is that you don't have to be paternalistic. If you compromise on quality of life, you compromise on justice, you compromise on equity, you compromise on dignity. If you as an individual and I as an individual can't and do not want to put a price tag on it, how do we allow our enterprises to do? How do we not hold them accountable? So somewhere the responsibility of individual enterprises is very, very interlinked. And as we will go forward, this demand will increase. So responsibility is not a dole, it is not paternalism, it is not that I give something to you. It is about equal rights and justice, and that is why information and the right to live, every year, only Delhi statistics, in November and December, respiratory dread spike up. I haven't signed up for a life like that. I haven't signed up for beggars knocking at my car door all the time. Why? It is not only government's responsibility, it is what businesses have come to also do, which have created these widening gaps between just the kind of life a certain section of society can live and the kind of life others are forced to live. With these thoughts, the issue in 2008 that MCA took up was that it is not good enough to be philanthropic. Philanthropy is nice, but if overall holistic responsibility is not in order, then only philanthropy will not deliver you the results on sustainable development. This was the idea with which MCA and GIZ came together, and IIC at that time was a new institution, and we signed up our project under the aegis of which a lot of things have happened. Next please. And that project gave rise to what Bharat has already talked to you about, the National Voluntary Guidelines on Business Responsibility. Those guidelines, then the ministry said, well, it's not good enough to say that I am responsible. I mean, there must be an evidence of it. And not only the evidence of it, it is also in public interest that there is more data about what companies are doing, not only on their economic bottom lines and how they are doing their financials, but also their impacts on environmental society. So if you say that you adhere to NVGs, please tell us how do you do that. So there was also a disclosure framework which Bharat has already touched about. Now, since 2008 we've been working together. We have rubbed off on each other. So Dr. Chatterjee talked about CSR, Bharat talked about business responsibility. Both of them took a philosophical aspect to explain why it is important. In a way, I think each one of us are in an activist missionary mode, which is what is required. Even as businesses, it is required. So you will hear us say the same thing coming from different perspectives. Next, please. But let's also talk about some nitty-gritties. Let's talk about some definitional clarity. Some terms are interchangeably used in India. In Europe, when you say CSR, you talk about responsible business or business responsibility. In America, CSR is understood more on the lines of community development, in Australia as well. In India, until now, everything was picked up. People said CSR, yeah, it is community development, but also this, but also this. But I think now, with the clause, with the New Companies Act in place, things are fairly simple and straightforward. And it will be reinventing the wheel, causing more chaos and confusion if you were to give too many meanings and interpretations to that. Everything is fitting in the big puzzle. The big puzzle of business responsibility is the overall 9 principles. There is a strong element of it, which is CSR, which in the Indian scenario is extremely important when we talk about community development. And it is as simple as that. But in NVGs, I mean, you will hear ESG, you will have business responsibility. All of them mean the same thing. ESG means environmental, social and governance. This is a term propagated by investors, which is about core business ESG integration. Triple bottom line you would have heard. So this slide is just to tell you what the definitions or what the terms there are. Next please. You can't see it, but these are the circles, yeah? You would have heard that it is, the CSR is not what you would do as a matter of business. It is about giving or keeping up a certain part of your profits towards community development. I do hope that in times to come, CSR definition moves from community development to community empowerment. Because the moment you say empowerment, there is a different kind of things that you can do on the ground. Development still, there is still a thinking that, oh, we were giving these checks, we can still keep on giving that, And the next 3 or 4 years will be the years of experimentation, will be the years of new models, will be the years of mutual learning by government and businesses and civil society. So I hope that moves in that direction. NVGs is the holistic aspect of business, and part of it, which is related to community, is amplified in principle number 8. Next, please. I will not go into these 9 principles. Bharat has already explained that to you. Next, please. This is principle number 8. Let's spend a moment on this. Principle number 8 talks about 4 things. The impact your business has on society, the well-being of society, your capability to innovate to decrease that adverse impact. Third, your capability and your duty and your responsibility to complement government's efforts of development. Fifth, your absolute responsibility of being responsive to vulnerable sections of the society wherever you are operating. This is a larger definition of CSR. Within CSR, as far as the law goes, you become even more specific towards certain things. We have had lots of debates about innovation, social businesses, shared value. I think all of these things will evolve. They are not, this is not a static document. When there is more experience, laws change, policies change. The idea is to get ahead and do those things which deliver better results on the ground. Next, please. Bharat talked about why disclosure is important and what is the difference between disclosure and reporting. This is an interesting fact. If you look at India's case, SEBI regulation and New Companies Act, as far as business responsibility in CSR goes, is a holistic picture. I do not think that in any other country, sustainability and CSR have come through with such a force through regulations and policy initiative. EU now has mandated sustainability reporting, which has elements of human rights and things like that. So there has been a push from the state in the last 4 or 5 years, and India, statistically proven, is also one of the top 10 countries where these things have holistically come forward. I talked to you about the importance of disclosure. It is not only that you are accountable to your stakeholders. It is for better performance. It is for better policy inputs. You will have information at one place on different aspects. It is for civil society, it is for research scientists, it is for policy makers. That kind of aggregated data did not exist before. It is first cycle, and the second cycle will get over now, this time on the NVG reporting. The challenge is, what do you do with that information? You will start having a lot more data, and tomorrow if the coverage expands, what do you do with that information? Similarly is the case with what do you do with CSR reporting? How do you improve? So this is a huge challenging task with new kinds of skills required by businesses and civil society and NGOs to really deliver on these things. Next please. This session is about capacity development and why capacity development. If you look at these boxes, they will tell you that there can never be an end in generating awareness. We thought some debates were over, we are again back to those debates, yeah? SMEs or any new constituency you take, you will again have to talk about the same thing. So even within your businesses, when you go back, you will have to talk. You cannot assume. People say, yeah, we know, but actually when it comes down to nitty-gritties, probably not. So awareness building, examples. Who's doing what? Not enough of them. You will read 10 case studies in Harvard Business Review. They will be oft repeated. How many of us, how many case studies are being written by Indian institutions actually addressing what the bottlenecks are? Policy consistency and coordination, it's a small thing in a very big system. It is only business responsibility. But are there enabling policies and consistent policies which enable business to be responsible? If you give subsidies on electricity, a farmer keeps his water pump on. And then you talk about water scarcity, which will affect businesses, which will also make farmers and businesses antagonistic. All of these things are happening at the same time. So this consistency and coordination requires a humongous effort. SMEs. We can talk about big businesses, but what about small enterprises? They face different challenges. Then, at least in India, there isn't a very clear market demand, to be very frank. Investors, yeah, slowly, but not Indian investors, not consumers, your businesses. How many times would you have created a product which is looking at responsible consumption? No, nobody's asking. Yeah? But regulations and regulators and government is asking. In different countries, it happens differently. And if there is progressive regulation, there will be, hopefully, a market demand. So it is hopefully the beginning of a virtuous cycle. Consensus and collaboration, very difficult to obtain. People do not listen to each other. It is my policy, your policy, mine is better, yours is not. But if you're really talking about sustainable development, if you're talking about post-2015 agenda on sustainable development, when Millennium Development Goals will get substituted, you will have to create consensus. Very difficult in a country like India, but I think it will be the next reform process. These are not reforms which are only economic reforms. These are process reforms, hopefully, that will have to come about. Gap between disclosure and performance. So a lot of people know what to do, but do not know how to do. And there is still a long gap between what you're reporting and what you're actually doing. How do you bridge that gap? That is where the capacity development measures come into play. Next slide, please. Next one. IICA, next one, please. IICA and GIZ took a very, very holistic approach. The project is advised by a group of 25 experts and practitioners. We put our resources where it was most important. We analyzed the practices not only in India, but also internationally. When you say capacity development, who does it? What do they do? All of those things were collected, interviews were conducted, a panel of experts were set up. Could you please go to the next slide? These were the people who were involved in this. Next slide, please. And we went into a governance model. We said, okay, IICA or GIZ itself alone through this project can't reach out to the thousands and thousands and thousands of enterprises. What is it that you do then with limited resources, limited time, but having an impact? You target those people who can make the change. You target business associations. That's where your role is important. When you can talk to your members, customize these trainings, become a part of customization process. You talk to financial institutions, you talk to media, you talk to government. So these, we selected at least 10 of them with whom IICA is now entering into MOUs, which will go, this is a project which will end by this year end, but the MOUs will go then for a longer period of time. Each institution should be able to find a business case for itself in delivering those trainings. Because have it from each one of us, as we've been talking about, there will be new skill set required. For each and everything. Within businesses, you'll be asked many more questions that you've ever been asked. Next slide, please. Yeah. So all of this was done. There were many awards which actually used the NBG and BRR questions to assess the competitors. So we had a lot of data. Next slide, please. Next one. You see here some of the companies who took part in actually developing the modules. So you see private companies, they said what are the challenges implementing, what could a principle-wise discussion look like, what is the expectation of modules in training. Next slide, please. And some observations which came out was that there is not equal clarity in each principle. They said, it doesn't really say much to us. Some principles like human rights, stakeholder engagement, lobbying, client relations, they found it problematic, Focus was on how. Showcase with worst and good practices. It's not only good practices exchange, but it's also the failures that teach you a lot. In fact, probably they teach you more than what success does. Maximizing conversation and interaction. It should not be only one pedagogic discourse. It should be an interaction-based training course. integrating into the core business strategy. How do you make those policies? What do you start looking at? Do you start looking at your future risks according to some of those principles and then look at opportunities? The moment you start looking at that, it becomes actually the top management question, because then you are actually deciding on your growth strategy. Then what are the tools to measure impact? Trainings. Push the trainings through enhanced coverage by media. Next slide, please. This is what we have come out. There are trainings of trainer modules, which contain 2 modules. There is a learner module and there is a trainer's guidance manual. So for example, Bengal Chamber of Commerce could become a certified training partner. It is a trainer then. And then there is a learning module which is for your members. And together, a complete pedagogic methodology. This is how you should do, a standardized format, above which you can customize it according to your needs. That has been done. This is how it is being done. There is an introduction aspect, concepts and definitions. It's a 16-hour course, 2-day course. Sustainability in contexts, scope and boundaries of responsibility. It's very important for a business to define, because you can't ask them to report and do almost everything, you know. The business case for responsibility. Who are your stakeholders? How do you map them? What is the reporting aspect of it? Where is the NVG focus? I mean, unpacking NVGs. CSR. How does Section 135 what does it expect from you? So it is a comprehensive look at the whole business responsibility in CSR thing. Implementation. That's the chapter 4 of NVGs, where most of the training in those 16 hours is focusing upon. And there is a certification, appraisal and review. Could you please go to the next? Similarly, BRR. Now, 100 companies have to report. This is a direct demand. And to make it actually useful reporting, meaningful disclosures is important. So this, how do you make a good report, is the focus of this training module. I will not go into the detail. These are in the stages of getting deployed. There is a road testing being done. In about 2 months' time, these institutions with which IICA has entered into MOUs should be able to have done one cycle of training where we will be assisting them, hand-holding them, and we will say, okay, you have done 3 workshops, please give us the feedback. So we will be in the journey with these institutions to see how the training modules can be further improved. Then let's go to the next one. Very briefly, you should be looking at what else is happening. It is not only CSR, but where is it in the bigger picture fitting? What could be some trends in the future? Bharat, the survey report that you showed is actually an old one. The new survey